I can't hold it in anymore, she gasped. Her tongue felt like sandpaper. Every word scraped against the edges of his mind as he watched her struggle to speak. They had been stranded together in the abandoned space station for what felt like an eternity, the hum of the failing engines their only companion. The dim emergency lights cast jagged shadows across the metallic walls, making the silence between them almost unbearable. She tried again, but the rasping sound of her throat made her pause. He moved closer, the smell of ozone and the faint tang of fear filling his nostrils. I can't hold it in anymore, she gasped, and there was a raw urgency in her eyes he had never seen before. He didn't flinch. He had seen fear, desperation, and pain in countless missions, but this was different. Something primal had shifted in her. She wasn't just scared. She was pleading. What is it? He asked, his voice low, steady, trying to calm the tremor in her hands. She backed up against the cold wall, her chest heaving, her eyes darting to the flickering monitors above them. They're coming, they know we're here, she whispered, her tongue scraping again against her teeth, making the sound almost unbearable. The words themselves were like a warning. He knew she wasn't exaggerating. The sensors had picked up movement near the docking bay, and the low-frequency vibrations of the hull hinted at incoming ships. He grabbed her arm gently but firmly. We don't have much time. Tell me everything now. Her lips trembled as she exhaled. It's not just them. It's the reactor. If it reaches critical mass, everything. Her words trailed off, leaving a hanging terror that pressed against the walls like the station itself was closing in. He felt a surge of adrenaline. The reactor, if it went unstable, it wouldn't just destroy the station. It would obliterate the nearby colony on Orpheus 12. And the enemy ships were less than 15 minutes out. Show me, he said. She nodded, finally letting go of the fear that had gripped her throat. She led him through the maze-like corridors, her footsteps echoing hollowly. Every so often, her tongue brushed against her teeth as she muttered warnings, almost as if her body couldn't contain the panic she had been bottling up. He realized then that the sandpaper sensation wasn't just physical, it was the manifestation of her sheer, unrelenting tension. They reached the reactor chamber. The cooling systems were failing, sparks shooting from panels like tiny meteors in the darkness. He knelt beside the console, his fingers flying over the controls, scanning for the optimal way to stabilize the reaction. She stood behind him, close enough that he could feel the heat radiating off her, her trembling hands brushing his shoulder as if she could transfer some of her panic to him. I don't know if I can, she started, her voice catching in her throat again. He turned to her, his gaze locking on hers. You can, he said, and there was no room for argument. You've been holding this in for too long. Whatever it is, let it out. Her eyes widened, and she exhaled a shuddering breath. Then she did something he hadn't expected. She reached into the console, pulling a damaged core connector free, her fingers trembling as she worked alongside him. She whispered the correct codes, guided him through the sequence she had memorized from a lifetime of secret training. Her tongue rasped against her teeth with each whispered number, each instruction, a symphony of fear and determination. And then it happened. A surge of energy pulsed through the chamber. The lights flickered violently. He could feel the station shuddering as the reactor threatened to go critical. Now, he shouted. Together, they inserted the stabilizer, her hands moving almost as fast as his. Sparks rained down, the smell of ozone intensifying. She bit her lip, her tongue scraping her teeth as the final sequence locked into place. The hum of the reactor slowed, the violent pulses subsiding into a steady, controlled glow. They had done it. They collapsed against each other, breathing hard, hearts racing. She looked up at him, the sandpaper sensation in her mouth replaced by a grin of relief, raw and unpolished. You saved it," she said, still trembling. He shook his head, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "No, we saved it. You were the key." Outside, the enemy ships hovered, scanning the station, unaware that the humans inside had already turned the tide. But in that moment nothing else mattered. The station was stable. They were alive. And for the first time since she had arrived, she could release the fear that had been clawing at her throat. She laughed softly, a sound rough from disuse, the rasp of her tongue still evident but now carrying relief instead of panic. "I can't believe I thought I could hold it in." He smiled back, feeling a strange warmth he hadn't allowed himself in years. "Neither could I." And in the quiet aftermath, with the lights of the docking bay casting long shadows across the floor, they finally allowed themselves to rest, knowing they had faced the impossible together, and won. Her tongue had felt like sandpaper, but what he did next changed everything. He didn't just stabilize a reactor or fight off imminent danger. He proved that sometimes letting go and letting someone else in was the only way to survive.